You would have thought I'd have all this set up. Hi, and welcome to Music and Gear. Tonight we got another deep dive. Now, earlier this week we did an unboxing on this guitar. And a little backstory one of our channel members sent us this guitar, Birdman, and we did an unboxing, went through the sounds. We actually did a little bit more than an unboxing. We did kind of look over the fit and finish on it. But that's normally not what this channel is about. We're more about doing deep dive type reviews. I want to double check make sure I'm not overgaining here. Not really overly set up to do, all my meters are over here. I want to make sure I'm not overgaining. So I'm going to turn off our little Yamaha amp here. And we're going to get right into doing a deep dive on this guitar. That's pretty much what this channel is known for doing anyway. I believe I've said it a million times. We're really not a demo channel. We're more about product information. There's tons of demo channels on YouTube. The issue with that is if you're a talented guitar player, I hate to say it, a talented guitar player can usually play even a substandard instrument and be able to play it well. That's why they're talented. What we try to do here is if you're purchasing this guitar, a lot of these budget guitars, the companies are real vague on the specs. So we really go over the specs of the guitar, let you look at the electronics. That way you have a lot more information if you're thinking about purchasing this guitar. I will say my initial thoughts on the guitar plays great. It has it is, I don't know how other to say it. This guitar shipped to me with the lowest action that I've ever received from any manufacturer at any price point. This guitar has the lowest factory set action height. Now, I know what you're thinking. It probably buzzes a lot. Believe it or not, it doesn't. It buzzes a little bit, but at this action height, that's crazy good. But we want to look at the guitar. Plus, when we originally played it, look right here. We still have the plastic on the pickups. How much does that actually change the sound? I don't know. We're gonna take it off. Let me see. Let's take that plastic off so I don't forget before we get to the demo section. I'm sorry, Birdman. I know guys buying new guitars. This is like peeling the plastic off of something. It's almost, what do they say, orgasmic to take the plastic off. So I'm stealing your thunder. There's our first piece of plastic. And we're going to take it off the bridge pickup here. Second piece of plastic. Okay. I guess what we want to look at first, I want to go through, we will check the tuning keys. I want to go through the general fit and finish. And I'm doing this in case someone didn't see the unboxing. So this is a flame maple top guitar. And you can see the flame. And looking at the guitar, it does change a little bit. This is a veneer, and some veneers have absolutely no shift. This guitar actually does have some shift. It's kind of hard to try to get it to where it'll do it. Right there, you can see it shifting. So it does have a little shift to it, and that's good for a veneer. This is an arch top, so it's almost completely flat right here, and then arches up. On some of the Gibsons, it'll almost have a dish feel where this arches up a little bit. This guitar does not have that. It's flat and then arches up. It does come with the pick guard, and there is one screw right here, and then the typical screw there. Looking at our bracket, it looks square to the guitar. Believe it or not, I've seen some Harley Bentons and some other guitars where this bracket's actually skewed and it just looks like it was just slapped on the guitar. This one is setting square to the body and the finish looks good. Our deflection here, there is a little deflection on that plate, but it fits around the trim rings really well. And if you're seeing any discolorization right here, it's because I'm leaving the plastic on that. Birdman, he can still have his moment where he peels at least that piece of plastic off. We do have speed knobs. At least that's what I call them, the little tapered bugle speed knobs. And all the knobs except this one, I see a good 1/8 of an inch between the body and the knob on this one, and this one. This one hits the arc right at the ramp. So right here on this backside, there's about 3/32, and it's really close to the body right there. I'm going to pick it up so you can get a closer view of that. And you can see how and that's really not, there's not too much you can do with that. I would raise this side to where it's the same, and that would give it a little bit more clearance here. But it is not rubbing the body. But when you look at it this way, when you look down at the guitar, it looks like this knob is on the body because there's a space. Like this one here is close to the body here, and there's more gap over here because of the arch top. Just pointing it out. There's not too much you can do about that. Going back to our top, I'm kind of jumping around. We do have a book match, which that means there's a seam. They've taken a piece of veneer, and they've split it and laid it like this, and then glued it back together. And I do see a little bit of a white line right here, and there's just an ever so slight glue line up in this part. It's really not bad because this is like a lemon finish. So unless you see it, like right here, I can see it. When I turn right here, it completely disappears. But when I look at it at this angle, I see the white line. I'm going to speculate and say the darker the finish, most likely that's going to be more visible. But on your lighter finishes, it's going to be less visible. We do have a binding that goes all the way around. Now, on a veneer top, it's so thin, they can push this veneer with steam and glue it and just sand this, and it leaves a little veneer line. I don't mind it as long as the sanding is nice. What they've chosen to do is they've chosen to put this binding around, and the veneer butts to the binding. Now, thinner veneers, when you sand that veneer to the binding, sometimes you can sand through it. And we reviewed a Firefly FFMN, and it had the exact same thing going on the top. I'm just going to point my finger right here. There's glue residue where they've sanded a little too far, or the glue went over on top of the veneer. Since it's a veneer, you can't sand too much. So it's either one or the other. They've sanded too far and the glue is exposed through the veneer, or the glue came out over it and they didn't sand enough off, and that glue has penetrated into the veneer. But it's here, and then from here all the way around to the neck. And there's a pretty substantial spot right here on the horn. And that's about it. Now, we do have some spots where they sanded so far into the veneer that the mahogany bottom of the guitar is coming through. This is the worst spot right here. And depending on how you move the body, you can see it here, here, and here. I'm going to try to move it back and forth, and hopefully you guys can see those spots. They didn't sand through the veneer, but they sanded enough to where the darker wood underneath is showing through the clear. Here, 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 and that's the worst spot right here. Looking at the back of the guitar, I'm going to try to count the pieces of wood. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like it's made out of 6 pieces of wood. And I'm counting the glue line seams in the back side of the guitar. Now, some companies, Firefly's hit and miss, and Harley Benton is hit and miss on this, depending on the price point. They'll piece the body and then put a mahogany veneer on the back and give it the appearance of a solid body. They have not done that. I can actually see the striping here. Now, following the striping, you look at this stripe right here. Now look at the neck. Can you see that? It does not follow the neck. It's doing this. Get a different view there. There you go. You can see the seam in the wood does not follow the neck of the guitar. So this seam is actually going this way. And you can see it right here and here. Is that a problem? No, it kind of, little things like that irritate me because unless there was a bad spot in the wood that they oriented this to where the CNC went around a bad spot, that just means they didn't zero the wood. They didn't align it to the fixture, the seams in the wood to the fixture. You know, they just slapped the chunk up there and ran the program. Does it really matter? I guess it doesn't. It just, I've seen this before. Firefly is really, really, really bad on this. I don't think I've seen a Harley Benton do that. If you've seen a Harley Benton where the glue line doesn't align to the neck, you can put that comment down below. I personally haven't seen it, but I have seen this on Firefly. Just pointing it out. Since we're on the back side of the guitar, our cover plate seems solid. It's not bouncing. Now, well, I say that. Right here, that's moving a good 32nd of an inch. So they may have over torqued these 2 screws and it's deflecting the plate up. It's solid everywhere else. And there's still a little plastic under the screws. This one, well, that could be just the plastic's still on that one. So usually when you take that plastic off, you got to take the screws out because the plastic gets under the screws and never wants to come out. This one's tight as well, but looking at this cover in the light, I can definitely see they've got a lot of torque on these screws and it's warped the plate. But as far as the machining to the plate, the gap looks good. I'm not seeing where it goes out a 16th and then back. It's following the routing really well. So unless I see something really bad inside on the CNC work, the CNC work on the guitar is really good. The sides on the guitar are nice and smooth. I'm not feeling any missteps where the machine started vibrating. Well, they call it chatter marks. And looking at it, usually if you're trying to sand chatter marks off, you'll get a distortion. Looking at it in the light, I'm going to say that this body was lightly sanded because I don't see any distortion marks in the body. The routine is nice all around through here. The same with the bottom of the guitar. It's nice and flat. When I look at the image, it's a nice, flat, even, sanded guitar. Our belly carve here is, the edge is broken. And all this feels really nice. The binding edge, I don't really feel it on the side of the guitar. There is a little something going on right here. And that's also the same spot that we have the sanding area. It just doesn't, literally the tip of the horn, there's a little scratchy. And that's not, sometimes it'll be glue residue and you can scratch it off. That's not scratching off. So there's a little spot right here. Everywhere else, the binding feels nice. It's not sticking up. It's nicely sanded. And the top coat is nice. Now, initially when I picked up the guitar, one of my big pet peeves, I can deal with everything else with this price point. Right here is a really bad sanding area. And this is where they had the DA sander and they're trying to sand their glue joint from the neck into the body. It's a really bad transition right here. I mean, is it going to affect the sound of the guitar? No. It's just a bad transition. It's where they've sanded in and it comes back out. And again, I don't know if that's going to show on the camera or not. Try to move it around to where the light will hit it. That's really the worst spot on the guitar, is the sanding transition right here. Now, it is a tenon joint, but this neck doesn't go all the way back through. They've left a 1/4 of an inch of the bottom material. So this tenon comes up a 1/4 and then comes back to the pickup. And they've sanded this out. This is a nice sanded joint right here, as far as the way it feels in your hand. I like that so much better than what Gibson does with the large heel. It does make the playability of the guitar much better. It is far better than the Gibson Access. If you look at how Gibson does the Access cut, this almost comes way out and it's thick and then kind of, it's really stupid how Gibson does it. This is a much nicer joint. I would take this, the way this is done, 100 times over the butt joint, the standard LP joint, or the Gibson Access, or the Epiphone Access joint. I would put this between the Sire being the best on how they've done it, and ESP, the way they've done it. This would be between those and the Gibson, as far as the feel of it. Going down the neck, we have a binding, and the binding to the side of the neck is good. All during playing it, there's no bad transitions. The back of the neck feels nice and smooth. I don't feel any sanding errors in the back of the neck. Nothing jumps out at me. The ball end frets, of course, they're smooth. It would pass the sock test 100%, 5-star. It's a ball end fret. They've rounded it this way on the ball end, but the dressing round over on this guitar is almost non-existent. So they've taken that fret edgeways and they've rolled it like this, and that's it. They've polished it. The edge of the bull nose of this ball end fret has no dressing whatsoever. I don't think I've ever seen that before on a ball end fret. And to be honest with you, it works. When I run my finger down it, I'm like, okay, what's going on? It doesn't feel like a ball end fret, but it feels like a ball end fret compared to a conventional fret, because I feel it doing this, but I don't feel the round over on the top. And the reason I'm saying I like that, a lot of ball end frets, they over round the fret like this and roll the side of the fret. So sometimes when the string gets right on the edge of the fret, it's rounded. So then the string goes whoop, right off the fret. With this, you don't have that issue. The way they've done the ball end on the fret, it's almost like the best of both worlds. It doesn't have the issue the conventional chamfered fret has, because they've knocked the corner off. But it doesn't have the roll problem of ball end fret because they haven't eased the top around. Um, I'm going to say I like it. This is the first one I've seen done like that. They usually always have a top round over. That's a unique to this company. I've never reviewed. I've reviewed a lot of guitars with ball and frets. This is the first one I've seen cut like that, and that also allows you the opportunity if you work on guitars, if you prefer the bullnose, you could easily go back and put a top bullnose over on these frets. They just have not done it. It's not sharp. So it has been sanded and polished. So I'm going to give that I like that. For the simple reason, you're not going to have the ball and fret problem with the string rolling over the fret. I like it. Feeling our nut. The nut is flush with the neck. They're not mini frets, but I wouldn't call them jumbo. They're probably medium jumbo. You know, I don't know if these are nickel or stainless steel, guys. We can. I'll ask Linnell to look up the guitar on Amazon and see if Amazon has a specification. Can you do that, hon? It's Amazon WestCreek Underdog Les Paul. She's going to look it up. So as we move up the neck, this does have just a little bit of a volute here. It's not as pronounced as an Epiphone or a Les Paul, but it does have a little bit of a volute. And I kind of like it. I'm not a person that goes, oh, it's got a volute, I don't like it. But yet, I don't pick up a guitar that doesn't have a volute and go, oh, I missed the volute. This one feels nice. It's not like, even with my thumb like that, it's not so pronounced that I feel like my thumb's riding up on a ramp. And that transition is nicely done. All this finish up here feels exactly the same. The finish on this guitar is really good. At this price point, the sheen and all the sanding except this one right here is done really well. It's just that one spot right here. Everything else sanding wise looks really nice. Something else I like WestCreek does, it's got a real serial number imprinted on the back of the guitar. I mean, does it really matter? No, but it has a real serial number. That means it's produced with the thought of we're keeping track of what we produce. So I kind of like that. I like it having a pronounced serial number. A lot of budget guitars don't do that. They just skate on it. It says made in China or something. This guitar does not state country of origin anywhere on it, but it does give you a nice serial number. I like that. I even like the headstock cut. I like this. That's a cool little take on a headstock. And it doesn't flare out so much on these two tuning keys to where this string is so close to this post. There is a little space there. So they've done a little bit of a correction there, but you can see your string pull still is not straight. But they have made a little correction. Feeling our tuning keys. I have tuned it. And to be honest with you, the tuning keys aren't bad. You know, I've been running this channel now for 3 years. And what I've seen on budget tuners, either they're so bad where they feel like they're going to fall apart when you tune it, or they're average, or they're really good. And what I've heard on the ones that feel really good is after about a year, they start failing. So only time will tell on these tuners, but the general feel of the tuner, they feel nice. And the finish on the tuner feels nice. So hopefully this will be a tuner that you can get years of use out of. I don't feel a scratchiness at all. And I've tuned every string on the guitar. The ratio on it, I'm going to say is probably a 14 or 16 to 1. It's not super precise, but it's not so off where you're missing the tune, if that makes sense. I'm not overly worried about the tune because we're gonna check intonation and stuff. But the tuners feel good out of the box. Um, Looking at our fretboard, the fretboard looks nice on the guitar too, and it's got these triangle inlays. And the reason I want to bring this up is on cheaper guitars, if you've got a triangle on the end, it never actually goes to a triangle, to a point. They round it. And that's because they're using a small bit, almost like a engraving bit. And the CNC comes down and it cuts that out. So the bit is round. So the very corner is rounded. Shockingly enough, all these come to a point. And I mean a sharp point. I'm not a fan of some people will probably like it. It looks very busy. I'm talking about the workmanship. The workmanship required to do 3 triangles, that's 3 points on every fret, except the 12th, it only has 2. So that's 9 spots where you got to come in here and clean up that CNC work. It is done remarkably well. The inlays on this guitar, I mean, I do see that one right there's got just a fraction of filler. At a quick glance, I only see one that I noticeably see filler on, and that's that one. That's incredible. There's a lot of inlays in this. There's 3, 3, 3, 3. To only have one mistake at this price point, I'm just bringing it to your attention that that is very unusual on a budget guitar for them to go in and get those corners to a point like that. That I like it. I don't like the general look of the triangle thing. You might love it. For me, it's busy. What I like about it is it shows someone cared and someone's went in there and cleaned that out and it's nice inlay work. So that's another plus to the neck on this guitar. Very nice. The chrome finish on the guitar looks very shiny. It looks like nice hardware. Now, our intonation adjustment screw is on the bridge side, going in this direction. We do have a flathead drive right here that adjusts your ABR style bridge height. And this is just the stop block to hold your strings. They've chose to put the string through the block and then up, so the string does not come in this way and wrap around the tailpiece. Depending on what side of the fence you're on, whether a wraparound or a go through is your thing, it is capable of doing both because it is bored equivalently on both sides. So depending on how you like to do it, this one is capable of doing it both ways. Looking at our jack to the guitar, this one does have the plastic. The jack feels tight. And it is 100% matching the radius of the guitar. There's no gap. That is nicely done. Even though it's in plastic, it's still nicely done. Okay. Since we're into all this tech stuff, let's open it up and see what makes this thing tick. Because everyone wants to know what your $235 or $240, depending on if you get it on sale, what your hard-earned money's getting you. Let's look at the switch first. And that one is in there. Only in a live show, guys. That's like spinning the quarter. You can see that we have shielding tape on that side of this one. That's nice. So looking at the switch, they have tinned the ground wire all the way across from the switch all the way in. And the ground wire, the connections look good. The switch is solid. So I'm going to spin it up so you can see it. Feeling the switch. It has a nice positive engagement. And I will say this, the switch on this guitar feels really nice. Surprisingly nice for this price point guitar. It has a nice solid engagement. About a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a little under a 1/16 of an inch in the upper and lower position. In the center position, it's got a little more jiggle, and it definitely has a 1/16 of an inch of jiggle there. But the throw feels solid, and it's good and secure. So it's not going to jump out on you. Nice switch. Let's look and see what we have in our main cavity. We'll try not to launch this one into the hemisphere. No promises. You guys want to place your bets, whether they're full-size pots or micro pots, place your bets now. And no, I'm not giving a pedal away if you get it right, because there's only, as you got a 50-50 chance and there's a ton of you watching. I'm going to be super careful this time. Look. Shielding tape on that one as well. So what do you think? Full-size pots or dime-size pots? I'll give you 5 seconds to post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you said this guitar has full-size pots, you're a winner. We have full-size pots. Now looking at the pots, I've seen on budget guitars, these pots, there's no labeling on the pots. It doesn't say 500K, doesn't say made in China. They say nothing. It's just a smooth top. I'm looking at the soldering. Also looking at the wires. It's that one. So, in case you're wondering, you can split the coils on these pickups. They are set up for coil split. So you could come in here. Let me get this one. They have taped off the red and white. Now, before you open up your guitar and see red and white, look at your manufacturers. Some manufacturers, red and white, it's not always the red and white wire. But in this case, it's the red and white wire. And I've got those sticking up to where you can see it. See how they're taped off? That means those two wires are joined together. So from one coil to the next coil, it's leaving the pickup, going all the way to the control cavity, then going back to the pickup again. So if you wanted to go coil split, that's where you would do it. So both pickups are set up to where if you chose to come in here and do a push-pull or something like that, you could do coil splits. All our solder joints on the top Look nice. Definitely to temperature. I'd say you got one iffy one. And I'm only going to say iffy because I know what happened here. They had the iron down on it and they let go of the iron or moved the iron. So it put a weird sheen on the puddle, but it would never fail. I can tell the bond is good. Looking at the bonds on the end of the potentiometers and our caps and all our small wires, it's not bad. I mean, it's nicely done. They put a zip tie on it. I mean, it's not like it doesn't look like a rat's nest in there. I would say it's decent. Looking at our routing, I see one. I see two step down marks. The first step down mark is pretty much flush. That's just where it steps down. The second step down mark, there's an offset. So I'm not really too sure why that is. That is peculiar. And the floor of the route, since it's an arch top, we have two different floor heights. You have the main height that these two potentiometers are on. Then they've bored deeper for this one and just a little deeper for this one. But it's not bad looking. I don't see wood hair sticking out where they've run the machines so fast that it's just got a ton of tear out. Doesn't look bad. This one up here, I see one step down mark and the flat plane looks good on it. I'd say all in all, it's pretty good. There is a little bit of compound in here, the white goo from polishing it. But even at that rate, it's not near as bad as I've seen on some more expensive guitars as far as the cleanup. I don't see any wood fiber and debris. Yeah, I've seen that a lot on these lower price guitars. You open them up and you turn it upside down, the wood dust falls out of it. This guitar was blown out and cleaned before assembly. So I'm going to give them a thumbs up on that, guys. Looks good. Now this is a live review, so I cannot go into squirrel mode. So you guys will just have to hold on to your pants while we put the screws back in the guitar. Since we're on electronics, we'll probably just go ahead and get you guys some pickup readings. I think that would be the logical next step. Pickup readings. Everybody, if you know the channel, you know I'm inspiring to be from the UK. So we are not testing inductance. We're checking Henrys. Oh, come on, I find that funny. I tell you what, we'll check the Henrys and the inductance. How come I hear crickets? That was another bad joke, wasn't it? I'm serious when I need to be serious, but I have a light side too. All right, our covers are on. Let's flip it over. Turn everything to maximum. The meter of choice tonight is a Proster BM4070. And this is the most affordable meter you can get that'll check Henrys and your ohms. And just so you don't know, it also checks inductance. So let's plug it in, see what we got. And I still have not put a battery in this. And look at that, it's still working. So we are going to 20K ohm. We are in the bridge position. Holy mackerel, 16.59. Now let's check the inductance. Henry's is 6.58. That's actually respectable considering our ohm reading. Let's go to our center position. 20K ohm is 5.55. Our inductance, or Henry's, is 2.50. That's still below 50%. In our neck position, 20K ohms is 8.34. Henry's in inductance is 3.96. So in my school of thought, the pickups should sound pretty good. Okay. That doesn't mean that they're going to be awesome pickups or bright pickups or dull pickups or flat. It's just, I look at it as I'm looking at magnet versus windings or wire gauge. This means, this pickup here probably has a little bit stronger magnet in it than this one, okay, according to the meter. This one has a lot of copper on it to get that reading, and the inductance and Henry's down that low. So this is going to be the better of the two pickups. In my little squirrel brain, that's what the meter's telling me. Maybe they've done it backwards. There's all kinds of tricks to pickups. I've never spoke to Dylan Talkstone directly. So I think on YouTube, he probably has one of the best pickup channels on YouTube as far as teaching you about pickups. Might want to check out his channel. I think he does phenomenal work. That's what I'm seeing on the pickups. So now let's go through and look at this guitar. Before I do that, we want to kind of go over the neck a little bit. So let's get my gauge. This is my metric gauge. So we want to check it on the 12th. On the 12th, I'm going to say we have 1.1 millimeters. I can just barely see the line on 1 under the string. On the high E, I cannot see the line on the 1 millimeter on the 12th. That's, I think I mentioned before, that's crazy. And if you're in the United States and you're in one of those imperial guys, we do have our imperial gauge. So on the 12th on imperial, I cannot see the line on the low E at 0.050. I have light tonight, more so than I had the night I opened up the box. I'm going to put the low E, because I can see the line at 0.040. It's probably like 0.046 or 7 on the low E. On the high E, the string is directly on the 0.40. And remember, guys, there's refraction or refraction error. As you move your head back and forth, it can kind of change the way the string looks to the gauge. That's as good as I could do, just kind of looking at it that way. The best way of doing it is putting a gauge here and then pushing down on the string like that, and then looking at the needle move. But this is accurate enough. All right, this is a Les Paul. So let's look at. I think I need to change my glasses. 24.75. So let's look at the factory relief, the way it was sent to me. Like I said, I have better light tonight. Yeah, the neck is perfectly straight. I mean, every fret, if I do see light, it's touching on one side of the scallop and not the other, or in the center. That's just sanding errors. So I mean, it's perfectly straight. Okay, let's plug it into our tuner. Let's see what we got tuner wise. It's really hard for me to see that. So let's tune up our E. Uh, it doesn't look like it's moved, Birdman, because on Monday night the room was pretty dark because I was facing the other direction. I couldn't have as much light, but it looked straight on Monday night as well when I put the gauge on it. So it doesn't seem like it's moved. This is a good time of year across the country for shipping because right now, like here, it's a pretty even temperature. So it's not going to change too much if it goes to Michigan. But if you wait till wintertime, there's a huge temperature difference. So things in shipping really move more, if that makes sense, in dead summer and dead winter. Spring and fall is usually the best time to be moving stuff around across the country. So there's our E. Let's do E on the 12th. You can see it is flat. Open. And tune it again. Twelfth. Yep, it's definitely flat. E open. E first fretted note. And our F is definitely sharp. And a lot of that is going to be the action is set so low. So there's room in this nut to cut the nut down. Someone, Backwoods Billy, made a comment on Monday's stream saying these manufacturers are listening. There's an advantage to low action like this, but if you try to raise your action or make changes, guarantee you're going to have to cut the nut. So if you've cut the nut for a .065 action and you try to lower it to this action height, that's going to buzz on your first fret. So keep that in mind. Everything works with everything else. So let's go to our A string. The intonation on the E string is low. It is flat. We're going to the A. A on the 12th. And again, it's flat. I mean, you can see it turning. This is what I'm using right here, guys. So I'm going to try to push really hard and get it to come in tune. And that's as hard as I can push. And I can bring it in, but I'm really pushing on it. No one's going to fret the guitar like that. So it is definitely low. And our A first fretted note. And our A sharp is sharp. So to get this guitar right, to get your first fretted note right, you're going to have to raise the action. Because if you cut the nut to get that first fretted note closer, it's going to buzz on this first. That's why a lot of companies shoot for 0.06 to 0.65, because you can get a nice first fretted note. You know, these notes will still be very close, and it's still very playable, and you won't get fret buzz. With an action height like this, you've got to keep that nut higher. But when you do that, that means you're pressing down more on this string, which increases the pitch of the string. So there's always pros and cons to everything. When someone says it's perfect, there is no such thing as a perfect setup guitar. No, it's not E flat, because it would come up E flat. There's our D. And again, our F is flat. So that's exactly what's going on here. They have this guitar set up across the board. It looks very consistent. This is a very accurate tuner. So it could be, when they set the intonation, their tuner was calibrated a little off. I'm going to say that this tuner here is spot on. It's very accurate, just like my Sabian back here. But if they're all doing that, I'm going to say their tuner was possibly out. Now, let's look at our G. Now, the G is very close. So scratch what I just said. The first three strings are just set flat. Here's our B. B on the 12th. That one's just a fraction flat. Well, we didn't do our first fretted note on the G. Let's go back to the G. G first fretted note. I can check it to E flat, but I guarantee it's probably still out. Our G sharp is sharp. There's our B. And our D is flat. Check our high E. And our high E is pretty much spot on. So I'm going to say no, this isn't going to make that much of a difference. So there's our D sharp. And you can see it's still flat. So if what you're saying is true, they set the guitar intonation to D. I would more be prone to say that their tuner was just out, or they didn't set it, because the D and B and E are pretty close. So there's our D sharp. Let's check it again. Stretch it. No, it went down. Very finicky. That's what I was saying about the tuners. All right, there's our D sharp, E flat, and you can see it's still flat. So let's bring it back up to E standard. So, I mean, the intonation's out a little bit. I could hear it on a couple of the notes on Monday night. Some of the chording sounded really good, and some of it I could hear it. So that's not surprising. So that's our first fretted note and intonation. Um, I'm not going to say it's the worst guitar we've had on the channel, but it's definitely not the best as far as the setup on the intonation. But I want everyone to know, if you've picked up a guitar and the action set this low from the factory, you're not going to get that first fretted note. All your first, these three doing your cowboy chords and stuff, are going to be a little out. How noticeable is it? Depends on how picky you are. If you're a seasoned musician, those guys pick up, they probably throw rocks at the gravel when I'm reviewing guitars, because I just play through. If it's out a little bit, I play through it. And I'm probably sure those guys are like, oh my God, he's out of tune. you know, if your ears are really sensitive, you're going to pick up on it. If you're a starting musician, I'd say it's definitely close enough. I see both sides of the argument, guys. I'm just telling you information about this particular instrument, if that makes sense. Yeah, we're going to weigh it, but we're still on the neck. We're doing neck and tuning and all that stuff. So the next non-giveaway free prize thing is what does people think the fretboard is? So I'm gonna lay out a 14 and find my 12. Here's my 12. Let's start with a 12-inch radius gauge first. I have no idea what it is. Ooh. That's pretty close. I'm going to set it right there. Let's check it with a 14. It's rocking on the 14. So it appears to be a 12. Let's check the top. I mean, I see a little gap in the center on the 12. Let's see where my other one is. Here's a 10. That's very strange. Yeah, I think it's just sanding error, because I definitely see a gap on the 10 on both. I think they were shooting for a 12-inch radius. I mean, it's very close. It's probably like a 11.7 or 11.5 or something like that. Either that, or they've sanded a little bit more on the neck on this side. But I'm going to call it a 12. I do see a little bit of a gap in the center of the gauge. And it's spot on at the bottom. Now, feeling my tool there, I want to see how much gap. See how that just, I mean, that is crazy low action. So my gauge, the StewMac gauge, is the reason I like them. A lot of people take this tool and they put it on the 12th, just like that. And they use this tool to set their radius. They raise and lower the saddle and hit this string until it just starts to buzz on the tool right here. It's a simple setup trick. This one, the action's so low you can't do that. But looking at how the saddles are set here, the E is ringing out. The A is vibrating. So the high E and low E both pretty much ring out freely. The A, G, D, well, the A and the B doesn't ring out at all. The A does a little bit. So the radius of this bridge, which is non-adjustable by saddle, you have to cut a groove in this to lower the individual height. It's actually not horrible. So it is set flatter than the neck. And I bring this up because when I was playing it on Monday night, I was trying to play that one little ditty, and I kept saying it. I'm struggling with this one little ditty. I felt like my hand was not coming up right. I think what I'm feeling is that radius being flatter. The only thing you could do with that is you would have to cut the low E and A and high E and B saddles a little bit to get this radius more like the neck. You might be surprised how many guitars with this style bridge are like that, where this radius does not match even close to your neck because no one's taken the time and cut these saddles properly. This guitar does have that issue. I'm just pointing it out. If this one has it, I can guarantee you every one of these guitars are going to have it, because that means at the factory, they're just sticking this bridge on and adjusting the height like this. They're not correcting for the radius. Okay, what else do we need to do? Weight. Let's check out the weight of the guitar. Now, I do have to take these off because it affects the weight. So we are on pound ounces, and you'll just have to take my word for it because since you can't really see it. Okay, just like the next radius poll, guess the weight. I'll give you 5 seconds. Type it in. What do you think? We're in pound ounces. What do you guys think the weight is? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, hope your answers are in. It is 9 pounds, 1.4 ounces. Is that heavy for a Les Paul? I'm going to probably say that's probably a little bit below average. I would say average is probably 9.5 pounds for a Les Paul. It's still heavy, but I'd say it's not on the heavy side for a Les Paul. Let's look at ounces, or grams, sorry. So on grams, we have 4,124 grams. You know, some people say reviewing guitars is pointless because every guitar is different. And I do see that point. I do, guys. Not taken away from what this channel does. I do see that point because every guitar, the fretwork can be one way or the other. The weight will change a little bit. What we're trying to do is a general idea of what to expect, if that makes sense. And again, that's what the comment section is for. We want to hear from everyone that has bought this guitar because this channel's here for product information. I'm reviewing one guitar, but you, the purchasers of this guitar, you kind of run the channel. So if you've purchased this guitar and you've got something that you're not seeing in this review, go down and please post below. That helps other people thinking about buying this guitar. This guitar at this price point, I'm sure they sell a lot of them. So you're helping out a lot of people browsing Amazon that's looking at this guitar. If you think that your comment is going to help them, please post. If you can't tell, I have my fret rocker. Now, I'm not expecting anything horrible, but I am very picky. So a lot of times when I say there's a little bit of rock, most techs wouldn't say anything about it. I'm just pointing that out. This guitar plays really well with this really low action, so I'm not expecting anything horrible. Could there be a low fret? Yes. If we have a low fret, that's instantly horrible because to fix it, you got to level them all. So if there is a problem, let's pray it's a high fret. So I can't go into squirrel mode. And before anyone says anything, yeah, I'm the guy that they talk about that picks up the tool. Yeah. I'm also the guy that does this with the strings on the guitar. But this time they can't say, well, he didn't straighten the neck. If you're checking with a fret rocker and someone's telling you that the neck's got to be perfectly straight for this to read right, I hate to say it, they're smoking crack. Because even in this spot, that's only like 2 3/4 of an inch. So when you move that truss rod and it changes this, 0.05 on your gauge, across this whole distance, it's not detectable with this little tool. So when I say there's a little bit of a rock, it's a little bit of a rock in this distance. Okay? But if I took a tool and put it on these 2 frets and it just barely rocked and that tool went all the way up here, it could be 0.25 millimeters out of plane. The longer the distance, the greater the reference point. The shorter the distance, the less reference you have. That's why I'm so picky. If you want a guitar that's perfect, it needs to be perfect. Not only the way the neck is sanded, but when the frets were dressed on how straight they got the neck. If a neck is bowed and you straighten it and it still has a wave to it, the neck's always going to have a wave. Now you can level the frets, that's what you're playing on. The frets, that's what's creating the buzz. But the wood under the frets will never be perfectly straight. Does that kind of make sense? That's why if you do a fret level, make sure you get the neck as straight as you can, and pay attention when you first start cutting it. If you notice it starts cutting a lot in the center and nothing on either end, that means when they leveled the frets, it had a little belly in it. It's up to you whether or not you want to add a little relief to that neck to take that out before you do your fret level or not. I'm not telling you which way to do it. I'm explaining what you hear on other channels when they say this guy's wrong or that guy's wrong. There's always a point of view of why this tech or that tech will say something. Okay? I can disagree with it, and I disagree with that. I think you should get it as straight as possible, but you're playing off the frets. So as long as the frets are as level as you can get them, I think you can have a little variation in the neck. So let's check this. And yes, again, I'm skipping over strings. And our very first spot, again, I'm very picky, right above the high E, 2nd fret. It's just barely moving, but I can hear the fret rocker. And just a little bit under the high E. Again, most techs would point that out. But on this channel, when I say it has a little bit of a rock, you know it has a little bit of a rock. And this is what I said earlier that's amazing. I am checking a ball-end fret under the E all the way out on the end with a fret rocker. I really, 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 really like what they've done with these fret ends on this. Okay. above the B on the 3rd fret. And the reason I just moved down, I knew we had a problem on the 2nd fret, but it's above the E. That is so close in reference to the E and B. But when I move it back above the B on the 2nd fret, it doesn't rock. But we do have a little bit of a rock there. And there. And there. And it's solid above the A. And you hear people say, well, I know the frets are level because it plays good. I hear that a lot on YouTube. Oh, you couldn't get the action that low if the frets were out. You can. It depends on how far out they are. This channel's here to really throw darts at the common reviewer or demo channel. I said I was going to be more forward and more frank. And right here, we got another one. Above the E, there's a little bit of a rock. Below the E, above the A, same. Gets solid above the B and above the E. And it comes back below the high E. I know some people are probably just tuned in that maybe not familiar with the channel, and they're going, wow, this cat's tearing apart this $250 guitar. Right below the A, again, rocking. Above the A, just barely rocking. Below the E, and solid above the E. Here lately, I've been having a lot of cramp issues. I've been doing a lot of guitar work over the last 3 months, so I think the fret files and everything have really tore up my hands here lately. Been doing a tremendous amount of work in the basement. More than normal. Let's pick it back up. We'll say this, oh, right there, another spot. It's rocking above the A and below the E, and it's good above the E. I will say this, the fret tool is sliding across the frets rather well. And as I'm doing this, my little squirrel brain is telling me that most likely, if these frets were leveled, they were just barely leveled. If your sanding is proper on the neck and you have a good press, and you press these frets in right, and you're using equal pressure, and you have a nice fret wire that's consistent, technically you shouldn't have to level frets. These frets have a feel to them, and that's what's given me that idea that this might be one of the guitars that they have pressed the frets in and done very little leveling work. And I know people are saying, well, that's impossible. In today's world, it's not impossible. It really isn't with today's tooling. If you can eliminate that off your build, think of the time that you just saved. There's another one. And again, that's above the B and back to solid under the B. None of these spots are really bad. I do want to say that. It's only just barely rocking. And that's what's given me the impression that it may not have actually gotten a fret level. That this might just be pressed in and chipped. Right there, above the E. That's the worst spot so far. So from below the A all the way to the low E, all the way up on that fret. Am I being picky? Yeah. So probably fret wise, you probably have 8 frets. Some of the frets are worse than others. Is it affecting the playability of the guitar? No, none of them are really bad. This one here is but the action is set so low on this guitar. Raising the action, like I said, will take care of all the issues. If you're looking for perfect frets, this guitar doesn't have it. Like I said, but none of them are bad. It's just barely rocking. This one right here is really the only spot I think a tech would say, yeah, that one needs some work. The rest of them, I think they would just let slide, if that makes sense. We got any questions, hon? All right, guys. Unless I'm missing something. Oh, we are missing something. You guys are just letting me skate on everything, aren't you? We are going to loosen the first 3 strings. This channel's about thorough reviews. And how can you do a thorough review unless we give you some measurements on this neck? You guys are supposed to be keeping me straight. Now, turning this tuning key like that one doesn't feel as good as the other ones. Just pointing it out. But I'm not getting the feeling of failure when I use them. So let's look at our nut width first. And it would help for me to use a scale that I'm used to. Always do this in metric. All right, in metric. We have 43.71. We convert that to inches, that's 1.7205. At our 12th, We have 52.88. Converting to inches, that's 2.0815. And our very, very, very last fret, we have 57.46 millimeters. And in inches, that's 2.262. Now let's look at the thickness of the neck. I get enough of them off there. So right at our first fret, first fret thickness is 21.45 millimeters. In inches, that's 0.8445. And then at our 12th, we have 24.06. In inches, that's 0.9475. Our neck starts getting thick. The radius change is right between the 12th and 13th fret. And it doesn't change much, but right here is where it really starts to get a little thicker. And that's right past the 14th fret. So I'm pretty sure, guys, we've pretty much knocked everything out. So since I just loosened all the strings, let me plug this thing in and retune it. And then we're going to do some sounds. This will probably be good. Loosen the strings up like that and then just tune it right up and jam on it. All right. That's close enough for right now. Excuse the squeaky chair. One more time. It has fallen off. It's probably going to take a little bit for us to get it back where it needs to be since I loosened the strings like that. Yeah, I think the ratio of the tuning keys could be a little better. Let's see how well that holds. So our amp of choice is a Yamaha THR-10. It is a budget guitar, so playing it through a budget amp seems to be fitting. Let's go down to our clean channel. We are in the bridge position. We're going to just do some open chords. I am going to turn the overheads off. So we're going to start out bridge, then go to center, then bridge. I think it sounds pretty good. I'm just going to leave the overheads on. You're going to probably hear a little bit of a pick attack. Again, I want to say that the radius, it feels a little flat on the neck. I don't play a Les Paul a lot, so that might be a common Les Paul thing. That's our neck. Let's go to our center position. Bridge position. The bridge position sounds a little bright. Let's roll the tone back a little bit. Right there. I think the bridge is a little bright. Let's do some bar chords. That was with the tone turned back. This is the tone all the way up. So you can tell it's definitely brighter with the tone up. Let's go up to our center position. Up to our neck position. I think it's got a really good sound in the center position and neck position. The bridge just seems in clean, a little bright. And don't forget we have tone knobs, so rolling that tone on the bridge makes a big difference. So let's hop up to our lead channel. Again, in crunch. It still seems a little bitey. Let's roll the tone back on our bridge. Up to our center position. Up to our neck position. And even in that position, you can do so much with your tone knobs. Like watch this. How much different this sounds. The pickups are responsive as well. They do take the change in the bite. You dig in, they respond. Turn the tone all the way up. Got a nice breakup. Going down to our bridge position. The bridge pickup definitely likes you to dig in. position. Neck position. I'd say it's pretty good. Now, everyone knows I like hair music. So, let's see what this thing can do if we play some hair music through it. That was a neck position. The action is so low on the guitar that it's actually, for me, it's a little harder to play. I'm used to being able to dig in, and the action is really low. For a shredder, someone playing really fast, I can see where an action height like this, especially if you're well trained and you're not picking your fingers up very far, I could see where an action height like this would benefit that type player. But if you watch me play, I'm not that disciplined. So my fingers are flying all over the place anyway, which is using more energy, a lot more effort. So I'm not a well-trained guitar player. Let's check the tune on it, because we have been playing it for a while, and we did completely adjust all the tuning. Let's see how far out it's went. The E is really good. It's just barely out. Or A is good. Or D is good. Or G is a little flat. Or B is just a fraction short. And our high E, just a fraction short. I actually say that's really good. go up to our middle position. Neck position. The guitar really does play effortlessly. Let's see how quick and easy that is. That's why I was talking about the tuners. I like to be able to, that's something you would get used to. I'm really just trying to be abusive now. The nut is cut well for what it's doing. It's not slipping and binding. And when you pull up on the strings like that, it'll tell you that. It's not popping and holding. So even though it's cut a little high, it's cut well and not pinching the strings. Hopefully that's enough of a demo. I tried to do a little bit of clean, a little crunch, and a little bit of high gain. Did just a little bit of an alternative tune there for your alternative guys. It doesn't matter what I do. Someone's going to say I didn't play enough clean or I didn't play enough high gain. I mean, it's a Les Paul guitar. This guitar has done everything from classic rock to country to death metal. I can't think of another more iconic style guitar other than this body style. It has played more different kinds of genres and music styles than probably any other instrument. The Les Paul, its configuration, it's that they're great instruments. My final thoughts on this guitar is I like it. I like it a lot, and at this price point, it's a player. It really is. I know we found some frets. Okay, I'm not dismissing the fret issue, but the guitar plays well. Would I level the frets on this guitar? Absolutely not. It's only one right here that's The rest of them are just barely out. If this was my guitar, believe it or not, I would raise the action. And on this guitar, I raise it to 0.06 on the low E and maybe 0.057 on the high E. And I would get more of a radius on the strings. I would recut this, get more radius on it, and recut the neck nut down to get a closer intonation. But it plays fine the way it is. If you order this guitar from Amazon and it comes this way, I would be tickled pink with the setup that this guitar has on it. It's dead low. If you're thinking about purchasing an instrument for your kid to learn on, there's nothing about this guitar that's going to prevent him from excelling because it frets easy, it plays easy, the tuning keys seem to hold. It's an easy guitar to learn on. There's no bridge. I don't recommend people starting on a floating bridge. This is a fixed tail. It's easy to change strings. This would be a great guitar to give someone if they're learning. It's also a great guitar for a seasoned musician. I think the pickups sound okay. The bridge pickup to me is a little bright, but it sounds good on high gain. On clean settings, it's a little bright. You got to roll the tone back. When you roll the tone back, I think it sounds great. I love the center position, and I like the neck position. I don't think the guitar really needs anything out of the box. At this price point, I think it's a great buy. Again, I want to clarify one thing. This is one guitar, and this channel is about open and honest reviews, and this is as honest as I can be about this guitar. Now it's up to you guys. If you bought this guitar, and you've had a completely different experience, you got yours, and it was dinged or beat up out of the box, because everyone knows, if you look at the unboxing video, our box was relatively damaged, but the packaging was good. Even though the box looked bad, the guitar survived. And that's what counts. Don't care what the box looks like. The box is there to protect this. Okay? It did not come with a gig bag, so all you're getting is the guitar. Okay? No Radio Shack cable, no nothing. It did come with one tool to adjust the truss rod. That's it. So keep that in mind. You may need to get a big gig bag. But I think it's a great guitar for the money. You can't go wrong. Again, what I was going at, if you got something different, you need to go down and post. The more people that post that have purchased this guitar that can give info to other people, the better this review will be. Because, like I said, this is one guitar. If you've gotten one that was bad or you thought was bad, comment below. But again, if you got one and yours was just like this one, set up this great, and looks this beautiful, you need to post below too. Every comment helps someone clicking on the video that's thinking about purchasing this guitar make a decision on it. And if you don't know, you didn't get any commercials, because if you watch this live, I turned them off. This channel depends on super chats. There's no membership fee. There's no members only videos. This channel's for free. And it's going to be for free as long as I can continue to work full time and do this and not worry about making money. So super chats, that's what funds the channel. Tomorrow night's the last night. We end the free guitar giveaway. So come check us out Thursday night. And on Saturday, we're doing the drawing. I want to thank everyone for watching this live review. Without you guys, it is not possible. Again, thanks, guys. And if you don't know, we have a Discord channel. Go there. There's always topics about guitar modifications, wiring, stuff like that. Great people over there. Great people in the chat. Again, I want to thank everyone for coming on a non-night. Wednesday night's not our normal night. So thank you for coming and checking out. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. That really does help us. And you didn't have to subscribe to chat. I want you to subscribe because you enjoy the content and the honest content that this channel provides. Thanks, guys, and hopefully I'll see you on Thursday night.